lovers, and welcome. I want to start off by saying I am so blessed to be in a position to suggest tips and tools and even products that can help you lead a tantric life of liberation and expansion. And one of my absolute favorite places to purchase spiritual and sexy items is Wands. Wands.com, spelled Wands. Wands sells, you guessed it, crystal pleasure wands, along with so much more, including yoni eggs, free bleed blankets, other amazing products for yoni steaming. I've been using these products and products similar to them for the better part of a decade, and they have been incredible allies in my journey of sexual healing and expanding my orgasmic potential. And I'm so grateful to be friends with the owner, Courtney. She's amazing. She has so generously provided us all with a discount code for 15% off, and that code is Leola. Leola. You can use it on their website, www.wands.com. Again, the code is Leola, Leola, for 15% off. I'll also make sure that this is linked in the show notes. So thank you for listening, and you're welcome for the inevitable pleasure and healing that is coming your way with these products. Now, let's get into the episode. Hello and welcome to Talk Tantra to Me. This week we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're in a new space if you're watching the video. And I just have like a notebook in front of me with some notes written in colored pencil. So bear with me. We are trying something new on the podcast. We're trying something new. We're going through a little bit of a life rebrand overall and major upgrades, and that's what this episode is about. This episode is about living a tantric lifestyle, being willing to evolve, to grow, to be in tune with what is expansive and liberating in any given moment, and being curious about that evolving, even if it means releasing what you thought something once was or what you thought you once were. So where to begin? We are in the midst of eclipse season. We're coming out of Pisces into Aries season. And I'm not an astrology person. I don't even know necessarily why I'm bringing this in. If you are here for astrology, you are in the wrong place. And the reason that I'm bringing this forth or sharing the astrological whatever is because collectively there's definitely this energy of death and rebirth, and it's been like a big moment in my life. It's been a big moment of just evolution overall. And for me, this evolution I think really started a few months ago. I was in Paris and really like living this new life of a married woman and my business evolving in a new direction and taking risks and the risks paying off and being like, is everything still in integrity and in alignment? And last night, Andrew and I were in the bathtub and I was saying one thing that I know that I can stand by with confidence is that from the beginning and every step along the way, I have always been monitoring, is my lifestyle, is my way of being in integrity with the work that I'm teaching? And I can without a doubt say that it is. Anytime that I felt like I might be veering into a direction that actually isn't really serving me or the community in the highest good, even though it might look bright and shiny, I've checked myself and come back and I've come back and I've come back. And what that looks like sometimes is doing things like, seeing like, oh my God, I'm seeing this great opportunity to make lots of money in my business and to work harder and to see it grow in a certain way. And seeing that desire or that pull isn't actually coming from my soul. It's coming from social media. It's coming from seeing other coaches that are, scaling to 7 figures in, a few months or a year or whatever. And seeing them work themselves dry very often and say that they're teaching feminine embodied business, but in reality, it's like, where is their life in this? Where is their play in this? And I'm really proud to say that last year I made a major pivot in my business to have more spaciousness, to live a more tantric lifestyle, to live a lifestyle that was even more liberating and expansive. And it was really risky because I saw the potential of, potentially working less, potentially impacting lots more people, but also wanting that impact to be real and not just fabricated, if that makes sense. Like, for example, like I want there to be real value in the meeting of people. And so, for example, I once signed up for a program that was $5,000 for 5 months, I think. And it was literally like meditating in a small group once a week. And that was it. And like, I'm not going to say the meditation wasn't valuable, but did I get the value of 5K from it? Did it feel like a real good, like, use of my investment of money? No, actually it didn't. And so what I mean is like really still giving people a high level of value while things are shifting, and while I'm figuring it out. And there's also this realization for me that I really like teaching at my edge. Like I really like to also be in the process of learning and growing, and also being in authenticity with that, because I think that that's what a lot of us are doing in the coaching space. We're really only like a few steps ahead of the people that are paying us to learn from us. Anyways, here I am all over the place. This is what happens with these styles, but I know that from what I've seen, you guys actually really like this style of me talking and being on the podcast. And lately I've been doing a lot more educational content. And I came to this space where I started to feel like this podcast, which I've been doing every week for over 3 years, with a few, maybe once a year, I have a week off of the podcast. And just seeing as like my business has grown, as I've begun to work in bigger groups with people, I've realized like I'm not really in love with the podcast in the same way that I used to be, which is crazy because this podcast has given me so much. It's, given me a lot of confidence. It's given me practice in speaking about topics that are very embodied. Like it's hard to explain the embodied experience of Tantra. It's hard to explain the type of work that I know my soul has been doing for so many lifetimes. And yet, this podcast has given me practice to do that. It's given me so many opportunities to learn how to intellectualize and verbalize incredibly esoteric and embodied teachings and share those with people in a way that they can relate to it. Like that's a skill that I didn't have before this podcast. And this podcast and the consistency of it has given me the opportunity to really hone that skill, which is so, so powerful. I'm so grateful for it. This podcast has put me in rooms with some super inspiring people, some incredible people that I never would have had the opportunity to speak to otherwise. It's helped my business grow. It's just been like, overall, the podcast has been incredible. And, when I first started this podcast, it was, I wasn't making any money from it. I wasn't even really selling my own services or products on the podcast. I was just doing it for the sake of doing it and sharing the wisdom. And it felt really beautiful. And it still has always felt beautiful. But the point that I'm trying to say is I've just been like, things are shifting in my life and this gets to shift too. Like, I don't want this to go away. I love the podcast and I wasn't feeling the same turn on, And that's the thing about Tantra is that Tantra is, and if you've been on the podcast, you've heard the podcast before, you've probably heard me say this a million times, that Tantra is a Sanskrit word. It's actually two Sanskrit words put together. Tan is to expand and Tra is to liberate. So Tantra together is to create an expansive and liberating lifestyle. And the beautiful thing about that definition is that it's super broad. What is expansive and liberating to one person is very different to the next person, and what is expansive and liberating to one person is very different in one chapter of life compared to in another chapter of life. And what I realized recently with the podcast is it's not feeling expansive and liberating for me anymore the way that I'm doing it. So I was like, okay, can I hold on to it and release the parts that aren't serving and welcome in a new podcast that feels like orgasmic and yummy. And so that's what we're trying on. We're just trying it on. Let's see how it goes. And, please listen to the whole episode. And then I would love to hear your guys' feedback. If you have constructive criticism, please just send me a DM on Instagram, send me an email, info@talktantratome.com. Please don't leave a negative review. It really just impacts the numbers. It impacts who's able to receive this wisdom. And please understand that this is one episode of almost 200 at this point. And there's tons of awesome 5-star episodes or episodes worthy of a 5-star review. But if you do want to leave a 5-star review after listening to this, because it was so amazing, I won't stop you, and I might give you a little mwah. So that being said, we're going to sip some tea here. That's the only thing about the solo episodes is I don't have someone else that I'm talking to, and when they're talking, I have an opportunity to drink my tea. So I just sit here and awkwardly have a few sips. Okay, so in the fall, I went to Paris, and traveling has this really incredible impact on me. Like, I just get so much from the land. And I talked about this in an episode of the podcast called Making Love to the Land. But yeah, I think that it might be especially a feminine thing. I don't know. But for me, when I travel, I really connect with the space that I'm in, and I feel it full on. And usually it's a really positive effect. Like, I get a lot of inspiration. I get a lot of downloads about myself, about the world, about my business, about the future. Like, things just, I become extra intuitive based on my connection to the land. Other times, if it's like the land isn't resonating with me, I'll actually feel more tired. I'll get panic attacks, anxiety. But usually that's not the case, because usually I'm traveling to a place that my soul is feeling called to, and it brings it out. Times that I've got panic attacks from travel has been, there's one place in the world where this happens to me, and I think this is so weird and random, but it's San Francisco. San Francisco just does not jive with my system. It's gotten better over the years, but I used to have to go there a lot for work before I was in this work fully, and even actually at the beginning of this work, because I used to have some clients there. Anyways, I would go to San Francisco, and it would be like I hadn't had a panic attack in 3 years, and then I would roll up, and like my first night in San Francisco, I'd have a panic attack. Anyways, I went to Paris, and I was feeling very called to Austria specifically, which I talked about on the Making Love to the Land podcast, but I went. It was incredible. I wish I did a whole recap after that trip to share all the things that came through. But I flew through Paris to get to Austria, and I stopped in Paris for a few days. And Paris is somewhere that I can go like an infinite number of times, and there's always medicine for me there. There's always wisdom. And I went to go see this incredible burlesque show called Crazy Horse. If you ever go to Paris, go to Crazy Horse, buy tickets ahead of time. It's incredible. So artistic, so beautiful, and I was so fucking inspired watching this burlesque show. These women are just incredible athletes and artists. It's insane. So anyways, after the show and during the show, I was like journaling and writing all these things down. And I had this thought come through. At the time, I was teaching about money in the Higher Love Club, which is my online membership. And I was also talking, and I'm always talking about sex. I'm always talking about spirit and God and religion, and realizing that like a lot of my work has veered into specifically these places, specifically the darkness, specifically the things that are taboo, right? Like, we're not supposed to talk about money, sex, and religion. I want to talk about those topics. Those are the topics that like, yes, let's bring light to the dark. Let's like, that's where our power is. Like, the things that you always thought that you shouldn't be even thinking about, let alone talking about or doing, is actually like where a lot of your untapped power is. It's your shadow, right? And so I had this idea of rebranding the whole podcast and my whole brand from Talk Tantra to me to Talk Taboo to me. Okay, I want to hear your guys' feedback on this. What do you think about Talk Taboo to me? I brought it home, and at first I was like so alive and excited about it. And then like I started to get people's feedback, and it started to like yeah, muddle everything. And like, I had some people that were like, that's such a cool idea. And I had others that were like, I like it, but like, like I love Talk Tantra to me. I think Talk Tantra is stronger. Or, like, oh, it's going to be so hard to rebrand. I did that. And I just started to take in everyone else's like things about it. And then also, we were moving into our new house that we just bought. It was the holidays and my birthday. We went on a 3-week trip. Like, it's just been a lot has been happening. And I've been just like feeling this, like, okay, like this, like the discomfort when like you need to make a decision about something and then you just don't do it and you don't do it and it gets incredibly more uncomfortable. It's been like that lately. Like, it's been like the first quarter of this year has been like, ooh, like, something feels off. And it's not just about the name. Like, it's like that's been my whole life for the first quarter of this year, which is really interesting because my life is amazing and beautiful and so awesome. And also, like, there's been things that are off, like things that needed a little like tough love and a little trimming here and I feel like I'm on the other side of that now, which feels so good. Like, there was such a physical and energetic spring cleaning in my life lately. But anyways, that's what I'm here to talk about today. So this is going to be maybe a new thing that I do on the podcast once a month. I also might be going down to one episode every other week instead of every week. It'll be every other week. So just to give you guys like a little bit of, if you're a loyal listener and you've been here for a while, expect things to shift a little bit, potentially, as I'm figuring this out, as we're in this transition. But the beautiful thing is that we're actively in the transition now, where I'm like not in the resistance phase. I'm in the like, okay, like things are moving and it's okay. And like, I'm comfortable with this. And like, not even I'm comfortable with this. I can handle the discomfort. I can handle the discomfort of the unknown. I'm here for the evolution. I trust that it's all going to be even better on the other side. Okay, so let's talk about things that are happening in my life now. Talk taboo. Not everything that I'm going to talk about is taboo, though. That's been why I've like kind of hesitated to go there, because I'm like looking at my list today and I'm like, is this stuff taboo? There's also this piece too where now that I'm so deep in this world and this work and I'm so comfortable like talking about sex and being naked all the time and like talking about money and like God and like all of that stuff is so natural to me that I forget how uncomfortable it is for the vast majority of people. And so I'm like kind of disconnected, like in a way, from what truly is taboo at times. I was talking to my friend Sam about this. We're doing this pussy casting workshop together where we literally make art from our pussies by pouring this like mold onto it and then pouring ceramic into the mold. And I'm like, this is so dope. Everyone should want to do this. And then as I'm sharing it with people, people are really like, ooh, that's edgy. I'm scared to do that. And I'm like, oh yeah, like this is hard for a lot of people. I forget like how comfortable I am. So that's the thing that I'm actually doing this weekend. Probably by the time this episode comes out, that will be over. But if you're ever interested in doing that, reach out to me and I can connect you to Sam because she does one-on-one ceremonies all the time. She's awesome. I had her on the podcast a few weeks ago. I think the episode was called Pussy Reclamation or something like that. Okay, so what else has been going on in life? Let's talk about my marriage rebrand. So this is going to be a short snippet because I want to have Andrew on to do the whole marriage rebrand. But if you have questions about this, DM me so that can kind of steer our conversation. But I recently had one of my friends who's been helping Andrew and I through this process say that marriage is a mystery school. Like, it's two unique souls coming in and creating a contract, and it's a mystery school that only those two are privy to. Like, no one from the outside can fully understand the mystery that's happening within the marriage. And it's so fucking true. It's so true. Marriage is a mystery school, and it has been kicking my ass lately. It's been kicking my ass. Again, we're on the other side, but Andrew and I have been married we got married in July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. 8 months. A little over 8 months. And it's been incredible and beautiful and so healing for me. And it's been really hard at times. It's been super hard. And, when we set out to create this marriage, we wanted to create something that was evidence of what is possible for relationships and for marriage. And we've talked about that in other episodes, but it definitely puts a lot of pressure on things, but I will not settle for less either. And one of the other pieces that's been crunchy around, like, you know how I mentioned that feeling like, you know, you need to make a decision, or you know something needs a shift and you're just like not doing it, or like it's just not happening and it like feels really uncomfortable. That was kind of happening in our marriage too. But it was like I felt things were off, but I was like couldn't figure it out exactly. And then I was bringing it to him, and I was bringing it to him in a really like accusatory way and in a really like princessy way. And like sometimes I would do it more queenly. And then like also he's been going through a lot of transition with work, really beautiful transition, but also it just was like a lot. And we got to this point where it was like, we gotta get back in alignment with our vision. And so that's what we've been doing. And it was kind of crunchy for like a month as we were figuring this out and figuring out what tools were working for us and what weren't, and working with new people. And Andrew hired a new coach. And my main shift in this has really just been focusing on myself. And it's so funny because that sounds selfish. Like that's why I like probably was avoiding doing it for so long. But so many like polarity books and like divine feminine books tell you to do this, that like just focus on yourself and it will all fix itself. And like that kind of is exactly what happened. I just stopped like even bringing my problems to him as much, and instead just started like anything that I was like, I'm not getting this for my marriage and I feel like I should be, I just started giving it to myself. And my like everything got better. Like I started to feel more nourished. I wasn't outsourcing my bliss and pleasure and fun and relaxation to him. I was just doing it myself, and I was like, oh, I feel so much better. And then because I wasn't nagging him all the time to like do things with me, he started to just come to me and be like, do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to go to the gym with me? Do you want to go dancing? Do you want to go to dinner? And I was like, what? I've been like wanting to do more of this stuff for like months, and here we are, we're doing it. Oh my God, it's awesome. But I'm also not going to pretend like it wasn't an ugly dumpster fire at times. There were moments where I was like, what did I get myself into? And moments of like, you know, crying to my best friends on calls for like days in a row. And it feels so silly now that I'm on the other side. But what's really interesting is that when you get everything you want, quote unquote, it doesn't necessarily make your hard days easier. In some ways, it makes them harder because there's actually so much more to lose. Like there's just so much more to lose in this period of my life. And that's been another thing that's been coming up, is seeing people in their loss. And I went through a really big, sorry, I'm just checking the time too. Okay. I went through a really big period of loss last year. My best friend, my pup, Stuart, passed, and it was unexpected, came out of nowhere, so awful. Yeah, it was really tough. And at the same time, now I've seen one of my mentors slash friends lose her dog last week. And then another woman who I've had on the podcast in the past, who I follow on Instagram, and I really admire her life. She does like this like beautiful homesteading, and she's just very much in her mother chapter, which is, you know, like just around the corner for me. And so I get lots of inspiration for her, but she had a baby 3 months ago and she just lost her baby. And it was totally unexpected. And like this happened in the same day. Both of these losses happened, the dog and then the baby girl. And it was like, and this was like, this happened right as I was in the turning place into like getting to the other side of all of the mess of let's call it the rebrand of my life. But it was like, that sounds sexy and cute, but it was like fucking messy. Right when I was getting out of that, I saw the news of both of these things within like 2 or 3 hours of each other. And I was devastated for both of these beautiful women and their families, and feeling into my own loss, that like knowing that I couldn't even have probably fathomed their loss at all if I hadn't have had the loss that I had last year. And then on top of it, grief and loss is so unique to the person and to the relationship. And so then just knowing, like, I can't even imagine, but imagining as well, like, what if I lost Andrew right now? What if I lost our new baby girl, Anana, who's right here? She's out of camera shot, but like, in this beautiful community that I've created, like, just, so there's been this moment of feeling into collective grief as well, and feeling the sadness, and also just feeling so fucking grateful for everything that is working so well, and feeling grateful to be on the other side of my soupy mess. So it's been interesting. And it's just given me even more of a reason to live out loud, live in my pleasure, go all out, enjoy this fucking life. Which brings me to another weird little update. We did an Easter party on Sunday. If you don't follow me on Instagram, there's some fun content there from Easter specifically. So my friend Nisha, who's also been on the podcast, gave me the idea of having a Playboy Bunny Easter party. So for Playboy Bunny Easter party, all of the women wore lingerie and bunny ears. Amazing. So cute. The ladies really showed the fuck up. We invited the men to wear like Hugh Hefner style jackets or like robe kimonos, whatever. Some of them really did it. Some didn't. It's okay. We did have this joke though, that if people come to our events or parties and they're not dressed to theme, because most of our shit, like most of the things that we host at our house has a theme to it. If they don't dress to theme, they get a strike, and it's like 3 strikes and you don't get invited to our parties anymore. Because our stuff is like pretty dope. The things that we do. We're just like, let's live life. Let's have fun. So anyways, Playboy Bunny Easter, girls are dressed up, guys are dressed up, and then we did an adult Easter egg hunt. So we asked everyone to bring 10 small items that would fit inside of an Easter egg. And we had in these Easter eggs $100 bills, we had pennies, we had incredible, beautiful jewelry, we had experiences, like written on a piece of paper, like we'll take you, you know, to like dinner, or we'll give you this like custom sound journey escape, like sound bowls, whatever. We had plant medicine, we had condoms, we had like little gag gifts, funny underwear that said anal slut on them. We had all kinds of like weird shit in these eggs. And it was so fun. It was so healing for our inner children. Like, I feel so grateful for the community that I've got in Austin right now, because I like grew up in an environment where I didn't feel safe to be my full self. I never really felt like I had like a really good group of friends growing up or in high school or in college, or like really ever until I moved to Austin. And I also just like have a lot of trauma from my family, and like it sucks to like, you know, you see a lot of people that go home for the holidays, and I could do that and I would be fine. Like it wouldn't be re-traumatizing for me at this point in my life, but I still wouldn't feel like really like I want to be my whole wild, sexy, silly self so much. So it's really healing to be around the people here that we've curated, because it's like that we have so much permission to be all of it, to be wild and silly and sexy and playful and yummy, and like really just let our inner children out to play and have it be loved and celebrated by everyone. Like it's so fucking awesome and fun. Highly recommend. And I want to be clear, like I didn't have this. I moved to Austin like 2.5 years ago. So this is like new. In LA, I was like in a stage of like creating that, and I had it to a degree, but it's like really amplified since being here. So that was super fun.
Hello, lovers. Please bear with me for a brief interruption with a vulnerable share and offer from my heart. So when I first began my journey with spiritual intimacy and sacred sexuality, all I could afford were books and free podcasts. I was just out of college in my early 20s and honestly very, very broke. And I'm so grateful for all the complimentary, kind words and affordable wisdom that have gotten me where I am today. Price shouldn't deter you from healing. It shouldn't deter you from living the life you love or from reclaiming the most powerful energy in your body. It's my belief that time and commitment are also very powerful investments, especially when you're just dipping your toes in the water. You'll know when it's time to make the bigger cash investments in your journey. But let's begin together today with free love from my heart to yours. As you've already discovered, this podcast is free and it includes so much life-changing wisdom, but I'd also love to guide you to some free offers that are on my website, including a downloadable sexual shadow work workbook and a pleasure positive meditation. Both of these resources are amazing places to start in integrating the tantric principles of expansion and liberation into your life. And you can access these at www.talktantratome.com/free or find a direct link in the show notes. Now let's get back to the episode.
We also did a little ritual for my friend at the end of the night. So backstory, when I was manifesting Andrew, which there's an episode of the podcast called Manifest Your Life Partner, part 1 and part 2. I give you the whole process. Honestly, like, I gave away all my secrets. I should have made this like a special offer. But it was really awesome. So listen to that if you're like, I want to call in a man or woman or they, them, whatever. So after I did the whole ritual to call him in, the next week, I went out with my friends to dinner to this place called Maddie's in Austin, which is amazing. One of my favorite restaurants. They have peacocks all over the lawn. And they specifically had this albino peacock, all white. And there were 2 white peacock feathers. So my friend gave one to me. And I was like, I know that this is a sign from the universe that my man is about to come into my life. And he did. Like a week later, we started dating. Andrew and I started dating. So fast forward, Christmas time, my other friend was like, I want to meet a dude. And I was like, yes, girl, it's coming for you. Hubby, baby daddy is right around the corner. And I bought her like a Christmas ornament that was a white peacock to be like, this is like a sign for you. And she was like, ooh, like this is ugly. Like I don't really like this style of decoration. And I was like, girl, just trust me. This is your man. This is your man coming in. This is a gift. This is a sign. And then what do you know? 2 weeks later, she meets a dude and now they're like talking about having kids together and building a house together and like it's happening, right? So we also, one of my other friends who is in that stage of like, I'm ready to call him my man. I want him. I'm so here for it. We did a little ritual where we handed over the white peacock ornament to her. So we had the whole range of experience on Easter Sunday. We had the wild, playful, silly spectacle of adult Easter egg hunt. And we also had a deeply beautiful, nourishing ritual for our lovely friend. So that's been fun. What else has been new? I got a gardening coach. So part of my whole messy season was being like, I noticed myself, specifically I was in the launch of Pleasure Priestess, which is my amazing new mastermind for women, a whole year to do life and love together and follow the Tantrika path. Awesome. But that's not what this is about. I was doing it though, and it was like it was the first time I launched like the pros, I feel like I went for it. I have my coach, my own coach who I paid $20,000 for, helping me with it. And it's the most I've ever spent. I'm like, give me your codes. I want to launch like you. And I did. And I was like, whoa, this is so much. Oh my God. And it was really only a week, but it was a lot to hold and to carry. And I learned a lot from that. And I'm also learning that that's not my style. As I had said, like, I think that there's a way, like I realized that it kind of took me out of my pleasure a little bit. And that's so out of integrity for a program called Pleasure Priestess. And part of that was my choice, like me buying into the decision to be a little bit stressed. And it was also like the style and being like, what if I could be a example of a new way of launching and being successful in business that is like so full of pleasure. And that's what I'm bringing forth and really excited about and how I've been like since then, which is ironic because like during after I actually finished launching was when everyone signed up. Like, it wasn't during it, which is what you would think. It was like when I actually was like, okay, I'm done. Like, that was a fun experiment. Let me just go and like do a hybrid version that's kind of like that, like marketing kind of like that, but also like staying in my pleasure. Since then, it's been like easeful. Like, ladies are like, I'm ready, I'm in. It's been like, and I've hit my goals for it, and I'm like feeling really like lit up about the women that are saying yes to this initiation and the impact it's going to make in their lives. But anyways, while I was in that period of like, I was online so much and constantly checking my phone, and I was like, ugh, I don't like this. This doesn't feel in alignment with my tantric lifestyle. This doesn't feel expansive and liberating to me. It feels like I'm handcuffed to my phone and my laptop, and I want to be like living my life. Like, we just moved into this gorgeous 2.5 acre property. I want to be like on the land. Like, that's why I wanted this. And so my response was to hire a garden coach. So I'm really excited. I have a garden. I wake up every day so excited to go out there and check to see how my little babies are doing, water them, do the weeds. Like, it's so nourishing. It feels so good in the season of my life to have the balance of, I'm running a multi 6-figure business that I'm super proud of and that I'm so in love with, and I have really healthy boundaries with it. And I spend most of my days like outside on walks with my dog, or in the garden, or rolling around in a flower bed, or baking a quiche, or reading my book. And then the other half of the day, I'm having incredible conversations with dope people and planning epic experiences. Like, it feels super yummy and balanced. But a garden coach, right? How cool is that? So I knew I wanted to, like, I was like, I don't know how to garden. I've never learned how to garden. I don't know anything about it. Like, I don't even know where to start. It seems like it should be pretty easy. Like, there's literally things growing outside with like zero care. Like, but like, I also know that it's an art, right? And I've tried to grow like little herbs inside, and they've always died. And so I was like, all right, I need some help, but I don't just want someone to come and do it themselves. Like, I actually want to learn. And so that's to me what the difference between like a coach is and like someone that you would just hire to come and do a thing like landscaping or whatever at your house. Like, or like it's the difference in my business where like I have my coach who shows me how to do things, but she does nothing for me, versus the people that I hire to like do my video editing and, my bookkeeping and stuff like that, right? And I also know that just like in my business, I could watch hours and hours of YouTube videos about how to garden and figure something out and have a lot of trial and error and eventually have a garden that I'm proud of. But I also knew if I hired a coach, it would like, I'd have so much more confidence, and I would have someone there to help me that gets it, and it would just be more easeful and less guesswork. And that's what it's been. She like came over, she looked at, like, we already had like a I guess like probably like 3 feet by 5 foot little garden like bed that was here from the past owners. And she came over and took a look at that, took measurements, and she was like, and told me what it would look like to build out more if I wanted. And she looked at the spot and she was like, this is what I think you should grow. This is what's the easiest to grow. This is like, what do you like to eat? And I'll let you know like what I think from what you like to eat would fit well in this plot with the amount of sun that you're getting. And like, she just like looked at all the factors, and I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And also things like, I was like, I'm pretty sure I need to water this every day. Is that true? And she's like, yes. I'm like, okay, fuck. Like, I travel a lot. How am I going to manage that? And she also gave me some solutions for things that I can do when I'm traveling so that I'm not worried about it. And so it was really fun. And then I got to like, there were plants in there that were dead. There were also plants in there that had completely overtaken, like mint. Mint just grows like a fucking weed, if you didn't know. I literally tore up all the mint, and there's still new mint coming out. Like, it's just like, I'm like, how is this happening? Anyways, and then so I took all that out, weeded it entirely. Then I went to the garden store. I had so much fun at the garden store, just like looking at everything. Bought a bunch of seeds and seedlings and little herbs, and my garden is thriving. It's been so fun. I've been making like chimichurris with the herbs and like little garnishes. Um, there's nothing that's in the garden yet that like is a full vegetable that I can eat. Like it takes a while, obviously, but we're growing like peppers and cucumbers and bok choy and arugula and kale and romaine. And I'm just really excited for her to fully blossom. Next up is berries. I really want to add berries, so stay tuned. But that's how the gardening is going. It's feeling like, yes, this is what is expansive and liberating for me in this period of my life. Like it's like the balance of my work and the balance of like really taking advantage of where we live and the land and the beauty. And it's such like a beautiful moment to remember. My friend Justin, who I do retreats with, sent me this photo of me from 2 years ago when I went to visit him in Miami. And it's like exactly 2 years ago. And at that time, I didn't have a husband. I wasn't even dating Andrew yet. I knew him, but we weren't dating. Um, I lived in like an apartment building. I like didn't have this friend group, and it's so funny because even at that time, if you would have answered like, "Are you living a life that's expansive and liberating?" I would have said, "Hell yes, I am," and I was. And it's like this is what life is. This is what living a tantric life is. It's constantly calibrating. Where is there room for more freedom? Where is there room for more prosperity and love? And like, yeah, it just feels really juicy. And as I've said, there's also this inverse thing that happens where you become increasingly more vulnerable in a way because it's like I have everything I've wanted. Like, what would it be like if it all went away? And it's also a beautiful moment to realize, like, even when I had none of this, I found liberation and expansion and prosperity. But being the conscious creator, I'm always finding ways to up level and create even more. And it's just juicy. Okay, what else is new? I think I have one more thing I want to talk to you guys about. It's kind of juicy. It's kind of fun. So over the weekend, I went to Trader Joe's and we live like 25 minutes out of the city. So not far. It's like just a skip into the city. But whenever I do need to go into the city, I need to go into the city because, oh, that's another thing I'll talk about. One of the things I want to bring into these episodes that like is about just living life is like things that I'm really enjoying buying or investing in. And I think that it's really powerful because there's lots of blogs out there that are like, look at my haul of clothes and like, look at all these things that I'm buying. And I'm not like a no to that. I just feel like there could be more intentional shares. Does that make sense? There could be more like tantric shares. There could be more like, what am I trying to say? I want to share with you guys the things that are bringing a lot of value to my life. And so the garden coach is one. That was such an awesome investment. It was actually way more affordable than I thought it was going to be. It was like $150 for her to come out, I think, and like take a look at everything and tell me what to buy. But that's something that like I learned skills and I gained confidence that are priceless that I will use like literally every year and is like helping me feed my family. Like that's awesome. So another thing that I've been really enjoying buying is all natural clothing, like clothing with 100% natural fibers. So 100% cotton. This dress is 100% cotton. It's so cute and comfy. Actually, my friend gave this to me. We did a clothing swap, like a group of us girls, and this was in it, and it's so flattering on me, and it's so comfortable. And I promise you, once you start wearing like 100% natural clothes, like you can 1,000% feel the difference. Like both on my body, but also like vibrationally. I feel like it just was the time. Like it was another thing that like for years I had been like, I want to start being more conscious of the clothing that I'm buying and wearing. And I half-assed it. I didn't even half-assed it. I like 1/8 assed it. Like 1/8 of the time I was like really checking the label and being curious about it. And even then, if I really liked it, I would still grab it. Anyways, I was really just not doing it. And one day in the past couple of months, I woke up and I was like, this is not serving me anymore. Wearing plastic just isn't working. I don't like it. It doesn't feel good on my body. My body wants something more. It wants to feel better. And this feels like the next up level for me. So over the weekend, I did a massive clothing clean out, which is crazy because you look at my closet and it looks full right now, but I feel like I pulled out half of it. And half of it's in the back of my car. But with that came, okay, like if I'm going to be getting rid of a lot of stuff, then I also need to buy a lot of new stuff because I don't have enough basics that are 100% natural. By 100% natural, I mean 100% cotton, 100% silk, 100% linen, 100% wool. Am I missing anything obvious? Those are the main ones. And it could be a blend of those. Like it could be cashmere cotton, but not like silk and polyester, not like, and even things that are natural, like bamboo and viscose, are made of plant fibers, but they're treated with lots of chemicals. Like in the process of making the fibers, it's like awful for the environment and also awful for your skin, what they're doing to actually create the fiber, which is crazy because like I didn't think of that. There were so many things that I was buying that were bamboo that I was like, oh, this is better for me and for the environment. And it's like actually like probably not, because of all the chemicals and the toxins that are used in the process of creating the fabric. So that's been interesting. So I had to have like a cute little conversation with Andrew. Thankfully, Andrew has also been in a little shopping spree for his clothing. And has actually been even more in a shopping spree than I am. So when I came to him and I was like, I actually want to buy like a lot of new clothes, he was a yes to it. But also 2 nights ago, we had our money date. So I do my own money date once a month, which is like my money date for my business. And then he does he handles like our personal finances. And so we did a money date together for us for like our marriage and our finances. And he was like, so this is how much we've spent on clothes in the last 3 months. And we were both like, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money on clothes. He did own, he was like, this is mostly me. I want to acknowledge this is mostly me, which is funny because you think that it would be me as the woman and the wife. But anyways, we did do an episode about money and dating and relationships. It wasn't that far back. We released it, I think, in like January of this year. So if you're interested in learning about how we handle finances in our relationship, it's really good. But and not prescriptive. It's like, this is what we do, but you do you. But yeah, so I've been buying all this natural fiber stuff. The places that I've been really liking are I don't know if it's Quince or Quince, but it's Quince. And I'd already been purchasing their like bed linens. I really love their like gauzy cotton comforter. That's what we use for our bed. It's awesome. And I've been doing like natural sheets for like 3 years, 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years. I don't know. That was like one of the first things that I switched over. So that one I've been good on. But Quince also does clothes. So I bought a bunch of basics from them. The thing with like a lot of the 100% natural stuff is that it tends to be a bit more expensive, or it's just really boring. Quince is very affordable and it has awesome basics, but it's like kind of boring. Like it's very much like basics, and then I get to dress it up however I want. But I found this brand called Saison. They're French, and they're not 100%, neither is Quince. You still need to check, like, if you're going to shop for 100% natural, don't just go to Quince and buy anything on their website, because they still have polyester, they still have viscose, and same with Quince, or sorry, same with Saison. But they have a lot of, both of those brands have a lot of like 100% natural stuff. So Saison is really cool because they have more like patterns and colors and playful things that are way more my style. But it is a little bit more pricey. So I did buy like a bunch of stuff from Saison online. Interestingly, they just opened a pop-up in Austin, like a pop-up Saison store. When I go to the store, though, they don't have all the stuff that they have online, and I just noticed that I didn't really like the stuff that they have in store as much. But I bought a bunch of stuff online, and then I went to return the stuff that didn't fit or that I didn't quite like to the store in town. So now we're getting to the story that I actually wanted to tell, which was that after I went to Saison, I was like, okay, I'm in town now. I took this 25-minute trip in town. Is there anywhere else I want to go? And I thought, oh, I'll go to Trader Joe's. There's not a Trader Joe's out by us. I love Trader Joe's. I go like once every 3 or 4 months and just stock up on a bunch of stuff that we can't get anywhere else. So I go, I get my whole cart, I check out, and while I'm in the checkout line, I see this guy walk by, and I'm like, oh, that's a handsome dude. And then I was like, did a double take, and I was like, I know that person. And then I looked at him closer, and we both had this moment of like, I know you. It was the very first guy that I ever did more than kissing with. So like they like hooked up with, I guess. I think. Like I can't quite remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure it was the first dude that I ever did more than kissing with. And we didn't really do that much. either. So it brought up all these memories and all of this processing of like where I came from. And I thought, this would be a good thing to talk about on the podcast. And I even messaged one of my friends who has been with me in this process of rebranding, and I've been sharing with him, like, what do you think about sharing this story on the podcast and like talking about what I did with this guy when I was like 15 or 16 and like how I feel about it now and like looking back and like what I would tell that version of myself. And he was like, yes, this is what the people want. You got to tell them this. And I was like, okay, we're telling it. We're telling the story. And this is what I wanted the episode mainly to be about. But I feel like because this is my first time doing this style of episode, I feel like I've just got like so many things I want to share. Anyways, I see him. We have this moment of like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. Wow, it's been so long. Hi, how are you? But like, we're also like checking out. So like, we didn't really like have any time to like connect or drop in or anything like that. But, yeah, so it got me thinking about way back when. So I grew up in Missouri. So did this person. I think that he's been in Austin a little bit longer than me, but we've both been here for, a while. And we knew that we were both here. We exchanged messages every once in a while, but we never like hung out or did anything. And this, like, the first time I met him was like 15 years ago. And I think it was at like a high school game. Like, we didn't go to the same high school. I think we went to like rival high schools or something, but we met at a football game or some basketball game. I don't even remember. I think that's how we met. And he got my number, and I think that we were around the same age, but I remember our first date. And what's also interesting about this is, so we had this connection 15 years ago, and we've kind of kept in touch though for whatever reason, but we've never seen each other again in person since then. But yeah, so 15 years ago, we met at a like event. He got my number. I think that he might have been a little bit older than me, but only because I remember we went on like one date, I think. Like, I'm pretty sure it was only one date. And maybe two. I can't remember. And he picked me up in his pickup truck. And I think that he had just gotten his license. And I remember it being like this whole thing with my mom, because she was like, he just got his license, like, you need to be so careful, and da 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 da. And I was like, I just don't even understand what you're stressing out about. I was also really sassy because I felt like I come from a big family. Like, I had 5 siblings, and a lot of them were much younger than me. So my parents' hands were full, and they also had their own business. So a lot of times I felt neglected. Like, I didn't feel like I was getting the love and attention I wanted. And I was like, why am I getting attention now about something that's like not a big deal and that is like impacting my ability to have fun? Like, why can't you care about like my choir concert? So anyways, that was a thing. I think he picked me up, and I think that she said, I told her we were going to go to the park, and she was like, also like, I don't want you going to the park. I want you going to a public place. And I was like, the park is a public place. And the funny thing is like, she was worried about exactly what happened. I don't remember if I ended up just lying and telling her we're not going to go to the park anymore, or if she just let it go. But I remember we went to Taco Bell. I didn't get anything because I thought Taco Bell was gross. I'm pretty sure. Sorry, I feel like I have something in my eye if you're watching the video. He got some stuff from Taco Bell. We just kind of drove around, and I remember having these really high hopes that we were going to have this super romantic day, and he was going to take me out, and it was going to be so like awesome. And in reality, it was so fucking awkward and weird, but also exciting. It wasn't my first date ever. I'd been on other dates, but I think this might have been the first time that I had a guy come pick me up for a date. I'm not sure. So we went to Taco Bell, and then we went to the park. And we're walking around the park, and he like walked me into like this wooded area. Like, it was like this park that had lots of trails and things. And we were making out, and then he put his hands in my pants and fingered me. And that was the first time that it ever happened for me. And I was like, what's going on? And it was equal parts like, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. And even like, is he doing something wrong to me? Like, is this okay? Like, it was like, I couldn't have intellectualized this at the time, but tapping back into who I was, in that moment as a teen, there was this feeling of, I like this, I'm enjoying this, I'm getting attention, it feels good. And also, I shouldn't be doing this. This is bad and wrong. I'm bad. I'm wrong. He's taking advantage of me, which wasn't true holistically. And so, like, all of that was happening at the same time. So that happened. We go back to the car, and he tells me, like, hey, I would have kept fingering you. I stopped because I took my hand out and there was blood on my fingers. So I had started my period or something without even knowing it, which is bizarre. Like, I don't even know if it actually was my period or if like my hymen broke or something and I was bleeding. Like, I don't know. But yeah, he was like, yeah, there's like blood on my hands. So like, I stopped, and I was mortified. I was so mortified. Imagine being 16, the first guy ever that fingers you when you didn't know it was going to happen, and you liked it, and you're confused why you liked it, and you feel like slutty and bad and wrong, but also it felt good. And then he tells you that he got his period blood on your fingers. And it's like that's so embarrassing. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so fucking embarrassed. Um, yeah, it was not good. And so that's like the whole process. And I don't think I ever saw him again, but it was in this energy of like, I've kind of been conditioned to believe that my period is gross and wrong. And when I go to the bathroom, I need to hide my tampons in my sleeve, or in my purse so that boys don't know that I'm on my period because they're going to think that I'm gross, right? Like, that's the conditioning we receive, which is so fucking bogus and off and like disgusting to me at this point. Thankfully, now I have a husband that's like, I will lick your pussy while you're on your period. Please ride my face now, which it wasn't like that when we first got together, by the way, which is a whole other story. But yeah, it's like thinking about like, what would I tell that version of myself now, and like wanting to tell that younger version of myself that my blood is sacred and that I wasn't doing anything wrong, and that it's okay to lean into pleasure and what feels good. And also, can we talk about things like, this boy should have known, he should have been taught to ask for consent to touch me there, and he wasn't. And that's not his fault. But it also makes it not purely consensual in a way, right? But also, like, I should have been taught how to say no and how to approach that. And that like when you're young and people say like, don't let boys touch your pussy or like have sex with you, like don't have sex, it's like they don't tell you how much you're gonna want it and how to be in the process of that and how to have those conversations, right? And that's so much what my work is about. Like, I'm literally teaching adults how to understand like what's happening in their body in these moments where generally we're freezing. Instead, we're freezing, or we're flighting, or we're having an internal fight with ourselves. Like, that's what it was. Like, all of these different feelings happening in my body as a young girl, and so anyways, that's what I would tell her. That's what I would teach her. I've thought about doing like a youth sex education class. We'll see. Fast forward, I feel like I could go a whole lot deeper on that, but I want to be conscious of time. But if you're interested in hearing more stories like this, please DM me and let me know, because I've got a ton of them. But I'll share another story with the same dude. So fast forward like 7 or 8 years, probably 8 years. We like every once in a while we would text, or like he would come back on my radar from social media and we'd have a little message or whatever. 8 years later, I was in my early 20s and I was living in Greece. I was actually living all over the world. I was a digital nomad. I was making like 20 to 30K a year. I was just getting by, and I would go and live in places that had a really low cost of living, and I would work from there. And so at the time I was in Athens, which if you didn't know, Athens is actually like really affordable to live in. I had like this amazing penthouse apartment. It was like super old and dingy and like kind of gross, but it was like like I had like a view of the ocean. It was like a tiny, tiny studio, but it was like perfect for me. And I was paying, I think $350 a month. It was so cheap. And he was messaging me. And at that time, I was kind of going through my dark night of the soul, spiritually. I had I knew about Tantra. I'd been studying Tantra for a few years, but it was kind of off and on. Like, it wasn't like I was actively living that life, but it was a big transition moment for me because I went into this really deep, dark depression of loneliness. Like, it was so ironic because I was living this dream life on the outside, you know, traveling all over the world, but on the inside, I had massive scarcity. I had no community. I wasn't in contact with my family. I felt so alone, so sad, so depressed. And this boy from my high school was messaging me and giving me attention. And I was like, oh, someone cares about me. Someone loves me. Someone, and that's not like even it, you know, although we did text. I remember he told me that he really liked to tell women that he loved them while he was having sex with them. And I was like, that's so beautiful. Like, I want that. I love that. But like, we were on other sides of the world, and like, but we were texting, and it was like we had this little text relationship. And I remember he asked me to send him nudes, like all these, like, and he would like tell me what to do in the photos. And it was like kind of like kinky, naughty, taboo stuff. Here we are, we're getting into the taboo finally. And it was like exhilarating for me, and it really turned me on and it excited me. And again, I felt really bad and wrong, and I felt like I was doing something naughty. And I also didn't feel like a full yes in my body because of why I was doing it. I wasn't doing it for my pleasure, even though there was a part of me getting pleasure from it. I was doing it because he was asking for it. And I was doing it because I was afraid if I stopped responding to him, if I didn't send him what he wanted, which were these dirty texts, then he would withdraw his love and I would be alone again. And I wouldn't have that attention anymore. It was like completely from an unconscious why that was actually keeping me perpetually in this cycle of outsourcing love, and especially outsourcing love and attention that wasn't really healthy and in my highest good. And I want to be clear, this guy did nothing wrong. Like, he didn't force me to do anything. He didn't threaten me. Like, he asked me for this and I did it, you know, like, and it was on me to learn how to navigate. Is this an authentic, full-bodied yes for me? Is this an edge I'm willing to push? Or is this like actually like coming from a really unhealthy place and I get to heal that part of myself before I engage in behaviors like this? So that's what I would teach my younger self about that piece. I'm realizing we're coming up on an hour and I have to run. I have an appointment and my husband's about to walk through. I'm recording in my kitchen for the very first time ever. So I do need to wrap this up, but I want to just get your guys' feel again. Like, if you liked this episode, if you would like similar episodes, if there's anything else that you're like, I want to know more about this part of your life or that part of your life, please send me a DM on Instagram at Talk Tantra to me, or send me an email, info@talktantratome.com. If you like the idea of rebranding to Talk Taboo to me, let me know. What I'm thinking about right now, I'm going to do is have a Talk Taboo episode once a month that's like this kind of conversation, and just see how that goes for a while. But I love you guys. Thank you for witnessing me in this. This was obviously super free flow. For those that are on the watching on the video, you can see that I had no notes. I'm just free flowing for an hour. Time flew by. I thought this was going to be like a 30 or 40 minute episode, and we're at an hour. So thank you for being here. Thank you for opening yourself up to the idea of taboo and messy and more casual tantric living, lifestyle, garden coaching, marriage, all the things. Have a sexy and spiritual day, and I'll catch you next week on Talk Tantra to Me. Ta-ta.
Oops, just kidding. Still here. I have one last thing for y'all. I want to say that the internet is a really, really special place. It's why we're all here right now. And many of us, including me, wouldn't have discovered Tantra or sacred sexuality if it weren't for this nifty invention of the 20th century. And almost none of you would have found my work and my vision without it. I love the internet, and I deeply desire to expand beyond it, to experience more real life love, community, and connection. So I invite you to check out upcoming Tantra events at www.talktantratome.com/events, or click the link in the show notes. I can't wait to give you a big squeeze in real life. Okay, now that's it. Ta-ta for real. Ta-ta.